Hello, this is Blue Star, Defender of Equestria, and this is my afterthought review of The Crystalling. Oh man, this episode was just so touching, and I just love seeing a good team come together. It could have been a little bit more interesting, but it was still pretty cool. Yo! But I have to mention this before I forget that just when Sunburst is telling all the ponies what they have to go do, I noticed that Princess Celestia is in the background like, I'm so proud of you, Sunburst. It makes me so happy to see you succeeding. I like that. Because after I went back and I rewatched this episode, it's like I noticed that there was a number of times where Luna turns to Celestia, sort of looking like she's asking, what do you think about this, Celestia? And then Celestia will like smile, or she'll have this like expression on her face that basically says, yeah, I approve of this. And she's very happy to see Sunburst succeeding here and all the other ponies succeeding here too. Yes, I like that. That almost deserves a whole other video in itself. I almost want to do a glance analysis on some of those things. But for the purposes of this video, I think I'm just going to say that a lot of ponies have faith in Celestia because she has faith in them. And I think that was so cool and so awesome, and sort of ties into the final lesson of this episode. But anyway, let's go back to the beginning of this episode and in a way start from there. But yeah, it's like I just simply had to comment on that because that was just so awesome. I like that because the thing that made this episode so cool was that most of the characters had lines and meaningful things to do and say here, including the princesses Celestia and Luna, who usually don't have anything to do or say here and usually just get their butts kicked. Bummer. But in this case, that did not happen. In this case, all the characters, including Spike, who was very well written in this episode. Spike had, meaningful, useful things to say here. He wasn't portrayed as an idiot. Yeah, he made mistakes, but they were kind of understandable mistakes, and they weren't that too big of a deal, I guess. And overall, he was a very good support character in this role. That was cool. Yo! And, there was just, all the ponies had lines, and just basically they got to do meaningful, important things here. It's like, again, going back to Princess Luna and Celestia, it's like, they actually got to fight! Yes! And I really like that part. Because, yeah, Blue Star would definitely be like, everybody keep firing! Keep firing! Don't stop firing! And definitely, oh no, Princess Luna and Celestia, I shall save you! And I like how, even though, yeah, they're fighting clouds and all that, but it's like they don't outright fail here because they're weak or anything, or because, this was the only way they could be written out of the story. It's like they fail because they just simply can't handle this all on their own, which is, not a new situation for any of the princesses. But this time they actually got to, put up a heroic struggle and everything, and even though they fail, it was still kind of cool. Again, it was against clouds, but oh well, it's at least a step in the right direction, so I will take it, yo! And it was still pretty cool regardless. So let's now go back to, in a way, the core story. Well, the problem is there's two core stories here in this episode. I mean, the first is obviously Starlight Glimmer and Sunburst, and that was absolutely the thing that they needed to do here, and that was so cool. I mean, it was kind of awkward, but it was cool seeing these two come back together again. It's sort of like dancing around each other a little bit. It's like, I'm a big important wizard, or, nothing happened when you left and stuff. Yeah, they don't really want to admit, that they, what happened and everything. Like, one other minor criticism I kind of have is Sunburst. If he's not a wizard, then what is he? But I think the thing that really should have been on Twilight's list was, just be honest with each other. Just tell each other the truth, lay it all on the table, and work this all out and all that. That was ultimately what they did. I think that was cool. And I definitely shipped them. It's like, they're perfect for each other. It's like, it's just that simple. They're perfect for each other. It's awesome. Yo. And this might be the only ship that might actually happen in the show. But considering this is a show primarily about friendship, probably not. But you never know. But anyway, so yeah, that story was cool. And again, Spike was a very good support character here. And I think that was good. I had a few thoughts on, like, Twilight being a teacher and all that stuff. I mean, there's an interesting thing that I thought about. It's like, Starlight Glimmer's not a child. She doesn't need to be, led around by Twilight. All she needs is someone like Spike to basically not let her leave the situation. It's like, no, Starlight, you have to go deal with this. You have to go try to make friends with him. You can't just turn around and go home. and all that. And I think that was okay, and I think that was cool, and I like that. I just like that, and I just liked how Spike was portrayed here. I'm really starting to like Josh Haber a lot as a writer because I think that he's really good at writing characters, which is ultimately what all of the really good stories are about. They're about characters. Yo-ho! So, way to go to you! Yo-ho! Yeah, of course, the other big second story here is, of course, the whole thing with Princess Flurry Heart and the Crystal Empire and the Crystalling, and that was pretty cool, sort of. I mean, it was sort of confusing to me at first, and I do have to say there is a lot of, in a way, heavy-handed exposition, but I think there really wasn't much choice but to do heavy-handed exposition in a way, because it's like, not only does the audience not know this, but the characters don't know any of this either, so... So don't feel bad, audience. It's like, they don't know either. That was kind of a bummer, though, when the two princesses say that, oh, well, we don't basically know anything about her being born as an alicorn. It's like, we don't know about this either. Yeah, well, that's not very reassuring. Of course it's not. Bummer. That is a minor criticism. Is Luna and Celestia both feel kind of clueless in this episode, but they kind of have to be in this situation. Because otherwise, again, if they know the answer, well, that's the end of the story. And, they can't know everything, so... Yeah, which I think is going to lead me into Silverquill's review, where it's like he mentions that, he would have liked the males and the females working together instead of... Sunburst basically goes to Twilight and tells her what to do. Well, that's sort of true, but there's two things with this. The first is... none of the other ponies know what to do with this situation. It's like they all given it their best shot, and they've all failed, so they don't know what... Even Starlight Glimmer says this. It's like, since no pony else has any better ideas, what do we have to lose? Dying would be bad, And again, in the background, Celestia is winking and saying, basically, I approve. I like that, yo! But anyway, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like, at this point, all the princesses have given this the best shot. They don't know the answer. They need some pony to tell them what the answer was. And I must admit, as a programmer, I've been in this situation an awful lot. It's like, I'm out of ideas here. If anyone knows the answer, I don't care who fixes this, just as long as someone fixes it. So I definitely understand how Starlight Glimmer feels. It's like, I don't know what to do, so if anybody else has any ideas, I'm open to suggestions. And besides that, even when, Sunburst is basically here to tell them how to fix this, he's not really doing that. He's giving suggestions to Twilight. He's like, he's kind of like, come on, Twilight, you can figure this out. I know you can, Twilight. And besides, she's a princess. You wouldn't exactly want to just walk up to her and say, oh, here, Twilight, do this spell. That's not what he's doing. He's hinting at it, he's helping her along, and she does figure it out for herself. So, yo-ho! And honestly, I do feel that these characters, they're all working together and they're all contributing to the ultimate resolution, which I think is so awesome and so cool. Yo! So unfortunately, I have to disagree with Silverquill, because I just think this is awesome. I just love seeing a good team come together. But it was kind of confusing as well, how the crystalling works, how all this stuff is supposed to work. Yeah, like at the end was like, well, I hope that Sunburst takes his role as Crystaller seriously. Well, it appears that being a Crystaller just means that they present the baby to everyone, and then I guess give the crystal to the Crystal Heart. It's not like he's the child's godparent or something. At least that's not what we've been told, but eh. And I do have to say that I was a little confused by when they're actually reforming the Crystal Heart. At first I thought this was a kind of a give your power to the Crystal Heart a little bit, which is why I'm fired by Caster at it, which I think in retrospect was kind of wrong. I don't think that's how that's working. Yeah, Twilight is doing I'm gonna call it the reformation spell. That's not the name of the spell, but anyway. It's like she's doing that. Starlight Glimmer's doing the weather fixing spell. I'm not really sure what Luna and Celestia are doing, but I think in theory they're each casting a different spell and trying to reform the Crystal Heart. And then the love and the magic of friendship and the happiness or whatever that's in the crystal combines with the Crystal Heart, and then it all together creates the Crystal Heart. Yo! This is kind of reminiscent of the Crystal Empire, that the final resolution ultimately came from basically finding the Crystal Heart. Here they had to restore the Crystal Heart. ooh, an interesting thought in itself is that, yeah, before they simply just had to find it and just put it back to where it was. This time they actually, in a way, had to reform it, sort of, kind of like with what's happened with the main six and the elements of harmony. It's like, the short answer is that at first they had to find the elements of harmony, but now they almost are the elements of harmony and all that. And that's happened over the course of the last couple seasons, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, interesting notion. But yeah, again, so yeah, the ultimate resolution was finding the crystal heart, having all the ponies put their love and light and happiness and joy and all that stuff into the crystal heart, and having the giant magic wave come and turn them all into crystal ponies. Which is, again, was an interesting thing to note in itself, was that they're only the crystal ponies when that happens. I guess after time, I guess it just fades away and they just turn into regular ponies again. So, interesting. So it does honestly feel a little bit like the Crystal Empire, but I'm not really bothered by that. It was sort of a similar lesson, but it was still a pretty cool episode nonetheless. It was kind of slow, kind of boring at the first part, because yeah, there's a lot of exposition that we got to get out of the way. We got to explain the crystalling and all this stuff and everything, but, otherwise, it was still pretty cool. And again, this is a smaller episode. It isn't a big, huge adventure episode, so, I mean, unlike the Crystal Empire was, in a sense, a big adventure episode, it's like that episode opened with the Crystal Empire has appeared, and all of a sudden the stakes are pretty high, even though we may not know what the stakes are at that moment, but here it's just like, oh, what lesson is Starlight Glimmer going to learn? Oh, okay, well, good for Starlight Glimmer, but clearly not the same kind of level. But that's fine. I'm fine with that, to be honest. But it is kind of cool to have a smaller episode from time to time, because I think the short answer is because it enables us to have a little bit more looking into the characters and having a little bit, focusing more on them. And I think that's kind of what happened in this episode. And of course, the big thing was Princess Flurry Heart. That was so cool. Not entirely surprising, but it was still pretty cool. It's like, we have a new Alicorn princess. Oh, it's just so touching. But again, that was very confusing. It's like, what? You don't know either? Oh no. It's kind of disappointing to me that the episode is expecting us to be surprised that the baby is an Alicorn, but it really wasn't a surprise. Especially if you saw the spoilers beforehand. But yeah, I mean, the parent was an Alicorn, so it was a pretty good chance that the baby was going to be an Alicorn too, so... One thing I kind of took notice of was how the main six are kind of competing with, like, oh, my gift is better than your gift, and blah, 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 blah. I kind of liked that. That was kind of funny, and of course, it was meant kind of lightheartedly. No one's taking it seriously, but I think that does reflect real life a little bit. It's like, no, my present's better than your present. And of course, poor Shining Armor. It's like, he tries so hard. I mean, he definitely looks like he's a new parent. Aw, poor guy. He's exhausted. He hasn't slept. It's like, ugh. Unfortunately, you think things are bad now, they're only gonna get a lot worse. Ugh. But at the same time, it'll be okay, Shining Armor. It'll be okay. But I do have to say is that, oh, poor guy. It's like being a new parent is rough. But I think, trying to be a parent to this Alicorn baby goes above and beyond, and everything. It's like, because the baby can fly, has all these magic powers, and can teleport herself. It's like, that's not fair. It's like, that's terrible. Which sort of leads into something Dr. Wolf says, like, oh, it's like, well, I'm disappointed they had this spell. That takes away that aspect of her character. I think they had to do that not for the parents' sanity, but for their almost self-preservation. Because it's like, yeah, that moment where Flurry Heart tries to zap Mommy. It's like, oh no, I couldn't help but think, oh no, you just tried to kill Mommy? Oh no. That would make me depressed. It's like, my baby just tried to kill me. Oh. Well, the good news is it appears that it was a sneeze, so it was an accident, because because that would be terrible, but the good news is that wasn't it at all, so, but it was still kind of funny, sort of, I guess. The parents had to do something and everything, because otherwise they'll go insane and stuff, because that definitely goes above and beyond, so... I think that would get kind of tiresome kind of quickly too as well. So I'm not disappointed that they found a spell that curbs, the magical surges or whatever. And it would honestly make sense that there would be a spell for that. Because if for nothing else for the parents' sanity. So while Shining Armor definitely looks like he's just become a new parent, Cadence kind of doesn't. I would not look at Cadence and think that she just had a baby. If anything else, I would think it looks more like Shining Armor was the one who had the baby. Because as Silver Quill says, yeah, Shining Armor looks like he's been impacted by this life-changing event of having a baby, while Cadence kind of doesn't. So I kind of agree with that with Silverquill, is that Cadence doesn't look, I mean, she looks a little tired, but she's running and flying all over the place, and you never would have thought that she had just had a baby or anything like that. Oh well, maybe it's just another perk of being an alicord, but yeah, but otherwise, that's okay. I mean, it's one of those things I kind of took notice of, but it's not a big deal. But anyways, so overall, this was an interesting episode. There was a lot in it. It was kind of slow, though, but it was still really cool, and I really, really liked the resolution. This episode was not really informative of what the future season might be. It could be about Flurry Heart. I would think that it's probably not, but you never know. And we have a whole new Alicord princess where we could be some interesting things there. It's like interesting thoughts with this. Are we going to watch Flurry Heart grow over time? Or is she going to be a baby for the remainder of the series? I guess the answer to that is depends on how long the series runs for. But it'd be an interesting thing to see her grow from a baby to maybe someday an adult pony. We shall see. I would certainly like that. That would be pretty cool. But again, only time will tell. So that is the end of my Afterthoughts review of The Crystalling. This is Blue Star. Stay strong and pony on. Blue Star out.